Hey, Steve Mignani here. Before we get to our junkyard crawl video for today, just a heads up, on October 1st, if you're in the Durant, Oklahoma area, I'll be there live at Spanky Assiter's inaugural Freedom Choctaw Collector Car Auction at the Choctaw Casino and Resort Event Center, again in Durant, Oklahoma, where a whole bunch of cool collector cars are going to get sold, many of them at no reserve. And I'll be on the stage live doing commentary. One of the best cars and most special cars in that event is going to be the actual 58 Chevrolet Impala, fully restored, that was once owned by Peggy Sue Gerron. Yes, that Peggy Sue, the star of several Buddy Holly songs. Pretty, pretty, pretty Peggy Sue. That was her 58 Impala. That car is going to get sold at no reserve, again, on October 1st at the inaugural Freedom Choctaw Collector Car Auction in Durant, Oklahoma, October 1st. Be there if you want to take a shot at that car and just check out a great auction. Okay, let's get right into the junkyard crawl here at Bernardston Auto Wrecking. Hey, Steve Mignani here doing the junkyard crawl at Bernardston Auto Wrecking in Bernardston, Massachusetts. Now, we all know that Chevy pickup trucks are, well, second only to Ford pickup trucks in sales in the light truck market in the United States. And this here is a 1987 C10 Custom Deluxe. Now, of course, the mighty square bodies were built between 1973 and 1987. This is the end of the line for the square body. And this has some interesting stuff. One thing in particular is a lot of folks don't realize that Chevrolet actually sold two different grille assemblies and headlight assemblies. The Silverado, of course, came standard with 4 headlights, which are smaller, 4 by 6 inches stacked. But from 1984 through 1987, you could actually pay $109 and get the deluxe grille option, which would give you the Silverado's quad lights instead of this basic standard grille. Now, this is the base grille, and this is what you have with 2 7 by 6 inch headlamps. And again, they're not stacked up, but again, it's kind of unusual. Imagine, if you will, like 55 Thunderbird offering 2 different grille designs, strategically very different designs. But that's what Chevrolet did from 84 through 87, the optional deluxe grille, which we don't see on this Custom Deluxe. But something we do find on this one is the glove compartment, which is made of plastic. But most importantly, here it is, man, the SPID, Service Parts Identification. And we see here it has a variety of cool things. First and foremost, we see it has the 305, the engine 305, which is the it's an aluminum intake manifold. We'll take a peek at that, in fact, right now. Let's do that. Open the hood. Yeah, okay. Now, 1987 was the first year for the LO3 305, which is right here. And the thing that makes the LO3 unique and different is the fact that it didn't have a carburetor. This has 3 stud holes, not the usual 4 square footprint. This is actually where a throttle body with electronic fuel injectors would have lived. The intake manifold is made of aluminum, and this made 170 horsepower. Now, believe it or not, the 305 2-barrel, which was available in '86, only made 140 horsepower. So we're talking another 30 horsepower right here for the fuel injection. These also had a roller cam inside, which had hydraulic lifters. But again, that roller cam allowed the Chevy engineers to install a more aggressive load profile to maintain cylinder pressure and, of course, provide good fuel economy. But that roller cam was part of the picture that allowed this thing to make 170 horsepower versus 140. Now, the other things we see on this, of course, are, this is a 305, and we know that the 305 basically is like a 350. They have the same 3.48 inch stroke, but the bore on this one is a 1/4 inch smaller than the 350's 4-inch bore. This is a 3.73 inch bore, so that's why this is a 305 and not a 350. Now, another thing we see on this, it's pretty cool, is the quad shocks. Where do we find them here? 4 shocks up front. They're somewhere here. This, of course, always happens when we try to find things. Quad shocks, Z75. Yeah, front quad shocks, Z75 right there. That's kind of cool. Let's take a peek. Now, the nice thing is, on the passenger side of this thing, the inner fender housing is gone. So here we have Z75 quad shocks. These are $128, and these are not 2 of the same shock. This is actually, the inboard shock is a longer and taller shock than the outboard one. And the bracket that makes this a quad shock bolts to the frame, this thing right here, and this longer inboard shock accepts the same stud as the standard shock, but with a longer bolt. So again, these quad shocks were available also on Suburbans, and I believe Blazers as well, and often seen on vehicles equipped with snowplows. Not that this one has a snowplow now, but this may have been a snowplow truck. But again, the quad shock's kind of an uncommon thing, Z75. Let's continue our look around this. Now this, of course, is a four-wheel drive C10, so it's a half-tonner. It has the locking front hubs, of course, manual lock-in, lock-out. Leaf springs, seen for the final time on a four-wheel drive Chevy pickup truck. They went to torsion bars for the GMT replacement that came after these in 1988, the Streamline truck. So again, we see it here for the last time. Leaf springs up front on four-wheelers. Inside, this one again is a custom deluxe, not a Silverado, so it's pretty basic. We see inside the big bench seat going all the way across. This would have been a column shifted automatic transmission with the low range type four-wheel drive. And notice the 85-mile-an-hour speedometer. Yeah, it's a symptom of the time. And of course, that was mandated in 1978 on American cars to help people obey the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit, which was the rule of the land. And of course, we all remember that Sammy Hagar had that song, "I Can't Drive 55." But another thing here that's kind of cool is auxiliary fuel tank. We see it right here. This is the NL2 auxiliary fuel tank. And unlike Ford's, which would have had both tank fills on the same side of the truck, on this driver's side and passenger side are where Chevrolet put the secondary fuel tanks on the auxiliary fuel tank type truck. And one thing too on this is an unleaded fuel vehicles, as were all after 1972. And you can see here that there's a nozzle flange right there, that little spring-loaded doohickey right there inside. That thing there, that prevents the leaded style fuel filler at the gas station from being inserted in that. So that's something that was new on unleaded fuel only vehicles. Another thing too we see on this, of course, is the 73 through 87 and even beyond that, pickup trucks were the first Chevy trucks from 1960 through 72 that couldn't be had with coil springs at the back. Again, all of these square bodies have leaf springs at the rear. Now we see it right there. So again, coil springs were possible on the two-wheel drive versions of the 1960 through 72 Chevy pickup, but never on the square body as we see right here. Something I see right here, a junkyard miracle. Look at this. Here's the 6-lug wheel. Not a single lug nut. All those studs are exposed. You got to wonder if there's rust holding that wheel on there or just if it's a junkyard miracle. I don't know. But again, this is the 131-inch wheelbase with the 8-foot bed on the back, and it has the optional factory installed rear step bumper right there, which is a common item. And again, 12-bolt rear axle, but here it is right here, the end of the line for the square body Chevy pickup truck, 1987. And when I remember I was working at Ragsdale Chevrolet in 1986, Spencer, Massachusetts. I was just out of college, and when these trucks were being phased out, the word came out, hey, the new Chevy truck, the 88 Up, has independent front suspension and torsion bars. They're not going to be any good for towing or for plowing, so the rush was on. These things were being sold at premiums because folks were afraid of the independent front suspension and torsion bars on a four-wheel drive 88 Up pickup truck. So when this was new, this truck was probably in high demand. And again, this one was once used at College Street Motors in Amherst, Massachusetts. In fact, if you know Amherst, as you're coming up the road just before you get to Amherst College, College Street Motors used to be on the left-hand side. They did a lot of work on pretty much any kind of car, but this was probably their shop truck that they used for running errands, getting parts, etc. So that's the story of the final generation custom deluxe non-Silverado single headlight 305 LU or LO3 170 horse throttle body 305 pickup truck. To learn more about this truck, well, come on over to Berniston Auto Wrecking, where it is for sale. I stay out of the middle of that stuff. It is kind of rusty, but again, these things are getting to be red hot square body pickup trucks in the junkyard. Yeah, it still happens. Now, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Agnew YouTube channel, give us a thumbs up, and come back tomorrow for even more Junkyard Crawling.